everyone, my name is Femi Aishiro. We're going to be working on a weather project, right? So strictly focusing on the back end. And the data for the project, we are going to be getting it on this platform. All right, so this is a platform that offers information about data. It gives you weather information, right? So we are going to sign up and get API key, and then we can get the data. We can get weather data from this platform to use in our projects. I'm also going to be using Redis database. It's an in-memory database on this project. So many other things I'm going to use in this project. I want to show us the finished project. So I'm just going to do make run like this. Alright, so we can see that the Redis cache connection established, and then we have the server has started. Alright, so let's come here and I'm going to do health. Oh, it should be health like this. Alright, so we see that this is working, and then let's do this. Alright, so we're going to get weather, then the query that is going to be here. So we are going to do, let's do Lagos. Right. So what do we see? We can see information about Lagos, weather information about Lagos. Alright, so we can try as many places as we want. London, we can see data information about London, which we have the name, the region, the country, and all of that. So we can try some other places like Chicago, right? We can try New York. Alright, so New York as well, right? So every of this information, so I'm also logging them, right? So I just, for the sake of explanation, right, you can comment them out. All right, so all this information are coming from our project, but the data is from this platform, the weather platform. That is where we are getting there. We are going to get the data from this platform. We are going to consume an endpoint from this platform. So, but before we move on, we need to sign up on this platform so that we get the API key, and then we can get started on our project. So what I'm going to do now is what I'm doing is, this temple mail is to get the dummy mail, right? Just for the purpose of this video, so that we can get the dummy mail, and then we are going to use it to sign up on this platform. So I'm going to do some check. All right, so then let's sign up. All right, so just to sign up, so you can see that we've been able to sign up, and then account verification. So what we need to do is to come here and then check here, so we can see that email will be sent. So you can use your personal mail, whatever mail you want to use, but for the sake of this tutorial, I know some people will just copy everything direct, so I'm using this dummy email, so that at the end I can discard it. So I'm just going to click here to confirm. Or you can see that it has been confirmed, so we can get started. So let's log in. So what's the mail? So I'm going to get the mail here. So let's put in the mail here, and then we have stone 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so remember me. All right, so we are here at the dashboard, okay, for the application, right? So we can see that on the dashboard you have the API key. So I'm going to copy the API key. All right, so, and then you can come here to see the API Explorer, right? So let's come to this side. So this is the API Explorer, right? And so I'm going to put the API key here, right? Because you're making requests, you need the API key. And then, so let's say, for instance, let's say London, right? We already have London here. So I'm going to show us, so let's show us the response. So we can see the response body, right? So this is directly on their platform, Right, so this is the response we are going to get. Alright, so what do we need? We need the API key, which I've copied, and then so we're going to be doing all this inside our Go application, right? So we are not doing it on this platform, right? So we are going to be making that request right inside our backend. And I want to, there's something else I want to get. So I'm going to get the base URL. There's the base URL key. So we're going to get, so for you to get the base URL, also have to come to the API documentation. So for the API documentation, here is where you get the base URL, right? So this is what we are going to need, and then we're also going to need /current JSON. All right, so since we have our API key now, I think we can get started on our project. So I'm just going to create a new window like this. So let's minimize this. Before I minimize, let's stop the development server. And what we are going to do now is to, let's do this. So I'm going to create a new folder on the here. So let's call it weather app. So I'm going to bring it in like this. All right, so this is what we have. And the next thing is that's going to start to create different folders. So we're going to have the CMD folder, right? That's going to be the entry point of our application, right? Then we are going to have the internal. We are going to have the service. Okay, so this application, we are also going to have the types. Then we are going to have the utils like this. Just like this. All right, so and then I'm going to have a file called the make file like this as well. All right, so and finally we are going to have our environmental variable, because for security purpose it's best that we keep our API key in the environmental variable. Right, so I'm going to have e.nv rc like this. All right, so you can have your git ignore, yeah, like this, so that you have inside your git ignore, you make sure that nvrc is not pushed. All right, so that is that, guys. And then so inside our main, we are going to have our main. We're going to create some file here. Inside the cmd, we're going to have main.go. we're going to have app.go as well. So we're going to have package.main, and then we are going to write main like this. So we are good. No, this should be inside the main. So we are going to have package. I'm asking you for this, so package main. Nobody's sending you work. Nobody's sending you work. Close. All right, so we are going to have func main like this. All right, so that is what we need. Let me zoom in very well. All right, so we are setting up gradually, and then inside of our internal, we're going to have env. We're going to have folder for env like this, and then also we are going to have inside env, we're going to have model. Our model Then inside we are going to have repository like this as well. Inside we are going to have our store like this as well. Alright guys, so yeah, that's it guys. Okay, I think we can begin to write some code now. So can begin to write some code. So I'm just going to get to the API now, the API file. So so we are going to have a struct here, right? So the way I'm writing application structs like this. So the way everything works is going to be very simple, right? So as much as possible, I need this guy to be here. So we're going to do escalator like this. All right, so so we are going to have, so the entry point of our application is going to be CMD like this, right? So that's the roots of our application, the entry point, right? So everything we are going to be building is going to be called inside this folder, right? So that is that. So I'm still going to have like our handler. I'm still going to have some files here. So let me just create a file here. Let's handler.go, right? So let's have package main like this. Right, so the essence of splitting it is just not to have all the code in a single main file, right? It's going to be, I don't want to have so many code here. So I'm splitting it, but because all of them are still, we have the concept of packages, right? So they are still like the same file, but you're splitting the code in different files, right? Rather than having it in a single file. So that's just how it works. So I'm saying something that we have the CMD, which is the entry point of our application. So we are going to have something we are going to have the transport layer. So I'm going to write something here. Where's the, so I'm going to have transport layer, right? For the purpose of separation of concern. There's a principle of independency invasion principle, right? Just to make sure that our code is not tightly coupled together. So we're going to have the transport layer, then we are going to have the repository layer as well, right? So I'm going to be connecting these layers by using interface, because we know that interface in Golang is an abstract type, right? So that is that, and then we are going to have the service layer as well, right? So these are the layers that we are going to have, and they get to communicate using the interfaces. So that means whatever service, whatever is being used in any of these layers, right, they get to interact using interfaces without having to bother them with the implementation details, right? So that is how we are going to be building the project. All right, so let's just start going. Let's just keep moving. So for the application struct, we are going to have the config, right? We are going to have environmental variables that we are going to be using. Then we're going to have a logger, right? We're going to use sap.sugar logger. All right, so let's leave it like this, and then we are going to have type config struct like this. So we are going to have header like this. Is this going to be string? API URL. We're going to have API URL, right? So that is coming from the weather API key is going to be string as well. So you're going to have Redis CFG, you're going to have Redis config like this, and then we are going to have context timeout. It's going to be int. Alright, so for the Redis, right, there are things that we need to type this structs like this. So we're going to need the address for the Redis, our database, and then we are going to have the password, which is going to be string, and then we are going to have the DB, right? So these are just basic setup, right? So so we are going to initialize our project. Forgot to do that, so that is very important. So just to make sure we are in the same, okay. So we're going to do go mod init, right? So it's going to be github.com/weather app, right? So you do enter. So that's very important to initialize our project, right? So we can see that we have it here so that we can keep track of whatever dependencies we are going to be using in our project, right? So the dependencies are more like third-party libraries that are needed in your code, right? So these are code that are written that that you might be intending in your application. You don't need to repeat yourself, just to make your development faster and smoother. All right, so that is that. So for instance, for this logger now, we are getting it from, it's a third-party library from Uber, and then also we are going to be setting up our Redis very shortly. So I'm going to do something here. So I want us to set up our Redis. That is very important. So we are going to come to our store. So this is store, right? So let's set up our Redis. All right, so I'm going to call this redis.go like this. We're going to do package store, right? So that is that, and then we are going to do, so I'm going to do var ctx. It's going to be contests. Okay, I'm going to use context dot background like this. All right, so we are good. So we're declaring that globally in this particular file. So we're saying new Redis cache, right? So DAPY. So since they are the same thing, so since this guy and this guy is a string, that's why I'm using it like this. And then we are going to do VDB to be int like this. So we are returning Redis client. So the Redis client is an instance that connects to the Redis database. All right, so it's going to be client, right? How am I writing client like this? So you can see the red line because we need to install Redis. All right, so we need to reinstall Redis. I'll be doing that shortly. So we're going to have clients. So we're creating a variable now, right? So there are two ways of creating variables in Go, right? You can create using a var keyword, right? So this is global, and you can also have this inside, right? And then the other way of the short declaration method of creating variable is to have it inside a method like this. So we are saying redis.new client, right? So and then we have a pointer like this, redis dot option. So we're going to have this, right? So everything I'm doing is we can get to the Redis go-redis, right? If you're interested in reading more about it, so you can get relevant information about the setup, right? So I'm not doing magic, everything is here, right? So this is just very simple, right? So you can check it out here. All right, so let's continue. Clients, and then we have this like this, and then we have the password. If you check, you can see these are the things that are needed when you're setting up your Redis, right? You can see password and all of that. PW, and then we have DB, which is DB as well. DB. So what I'm doing here is that we are saying, right? So by the time we initialize it from our main, right? I'm going to be passing this inside. So this, the address, the password, the DB. So I'm going to be passing them from the main. We're going to be seeing that shortly. So we're going to do if error is so client.ping, right? This is to establish a connection with our Redis database, right? And then we are going to do error like this, and then we are saying if it's not new, then we have, you know, panic, just let's panic instead of doing log.filter fmt. So you have to import fmt sprint. So this is give us a formatted yeah, okay, connect to Redis like this. So we have this v, and then we have error like this. So in case there's an error, then we are going to get this logged out to us, and then so we are going to return, let's return the client, right? So we need this client to be able to so I'm just going to show something really quick now, right? So we need this setup in order for us to begin to use sets, right? So this sets is a key value pair database, right? And it's in memory very fast, and so we need, before we can begin to set, and then before we can be setting means that you're setting a value inside the database, the Redis database, then you need to create an instance, and that is why I'm doing all this. All right, so we are just going to continue. So for the sake of the things that we've installed, I want to take out these red lines, and what I'm going to do now is to, what we are going to do now is to do go mod tidy, so that every of the packages will be installed, right? So see that every of the packages will be installed. I think we are almost there. Okay, still downloading. All right, so what we are going to now do next is to come to our main. All right, so let's go to our main. I'm expecting this guy to, okay, we can see that. So this is not correct, right? That is not correct. So that's why it should be Redis. Okay, I'm going to do Redis /v9, right? So Redis /v9. Okay, let's get to the site. Just going to copy. I expect this to be okay. So let's run go.mod again. Okay. All right. So we see that this has been settled now, right? So we see that the red line has gone because the Redis has been installed, right? So the next thing we want to do now is, let's get to this guy. We need to import it as well, right? Logger, let's get SAP. All right, so this guy has not been installed as well. Alright, so I just want to get rid of all the red lines. Okay, why are we still having that? Oh, the spelling is not correct. Alright, so we can see that everything is perfect now, is clean. So let's get to our main, right? So let's get to our main, and so we see everything we've written here, right? We need to sort out some things, right? So I'm going to come to our environmental variable. Now that we have the API key on this platform, we have our API key, then this is our base URL. Where's our base URL here? Yeah, this is our base URL. So I'm going to be setting up some things on this platform. So let's do, so I'm going to do export. So before I continue, right, so for the, there are two main packages that we can use. These two main packages that we can use when it comes to using our environmental variable, like getting the data in our environmental variable. So this is one of them, like the two I know. Right, so this is, you can use go this, we can use this. It's a very popular package that we can use as well to get whatever is being stored in our environmental variable to be loaded in our application. And then the next one I'm going to use is going to be drn, like this as well. Okay, so we are going to use this, and the reason why I'm using this is because this works across every programming language, right? So it's not just for Go, right? So you will need to install this, right? Because that is what I'm using on this project, right? You need to install this, and then if you go through this, you see how you can install it. So you can see install this, right? So you can see if you're using Mac, if you're using Windows and all of that. So these are the Windows. I'm using Mac. So if you're using Mac, then you have to go through these routes, Homebrew and all of that, right? So that is that, right? So that you can, follow along with me. Okay, so in case you're having difficulty, because if you install, there are some things you need to get. So you can just on chat GPT, you can just how to install drmv, this package, and it's going to give you information about. So after you've installed, right, if you're using Mac, whatever, you can always check the version. All you have to do is rmv version, right? So if I go to my terminal now, let's go to my terminal like this, and I just copy and paste. So what you see, you can see 2 points this, meaning that it is installed, right? So that is that. And then in case you're having problem, this is going to guide you on what to do, install it, and then help you out on how to use it on your project. So that is that about that. All right, so let's get back to environmental variable. We're going to do rd, we're going to do 3000 exports redis address local hosts. And then also I'm going to be showing us how to install redis in our application as well. So you need to have redis installed in your application to be able to use redis. Without installing redis, it's not going to work. Password, so you can leave it empty. Exports redis db 0. So these are informations that we are going to be needing in our projects, and whether API key, right? So you don't want to, these are things that you don't want to push to GitHub, and that's why I'm using a dummy mail, right? So you can copy this and then paste it here. This is my key. Exports weather URL, right? So it's going to be URL. So the weather URL is coming from like this. So this is the weather URL, the base URL, right? So this is where you are going to copy, and then you're going to paste slash current JSON, right? So this is what we need. Current dot JSON like this. And then the last but not the least is going to be export time duration is going to be 10 seconds. Right, so our environmental variable is set, right? Go ahead and create your own account, right, so that you have your own API key. So this is dummy. After the project, I'm going to take it off, right? I'm going to change it. All right, so what we are going to do next is to come to our main application. Let's get to our main application and do some configuration settings here. So we know that our API, we have our applications, this and this. So what I'm going to do now is to come here and we are going to do CFG. We are going to instantiate our struct, right? So that's what I want to do, config like this. So we see that we have our struct here. Then we need to instantiate our struct. So config like this. So we see, okay, so if I let me open this by the side like this. So let's do B. All right, so we can see. So we can see the struct. We are instantiating this guy. We are instantiating. Okay, you can see this. This is the first one, right? We see that is a nested struct. So you have the application struct, then we have all this information, they are under this guy here. So that's what you are seeing under here, address. So what we are going to have is env. So before I do the env, then there's something we need to do. Very important. You can see that inside the internal folder, right? I'm going to take this guy. Inside here, right? I'm going to create another file called env.go, right? So we're going to be writing some things here. Package.env. I'm going to write some function from get string, right? So this is the function that will pull out, the things we have in our environmental variable for us. Fallback. So the 2 is going to be string, and then it's returning a string. And then we are going to have var OK. Then we are going to have os.look up env, right? So this is coming from its Sphere OS package. Then it's going to be the key, right? So we are going to have if not okay. We're going to have return in case there's nothing. Then we are going to have a fallback, and then we are going to return var like this. So that is that. Then we are going to have func get int. So we're going to have a key, string, then we're going to have fallback. Fallback is going to be int. We're going to return int, right? So we're going to have okay equals to os.look env. Then you're going to have a key. We're going to have if it's okay. We're going to return fallback. All right, so that is that, and then we're going to have var as int error going to have str. So we are going to convert here. So dot at like this equals to, so in converting the var, right, if error let this name, are going to return, what are we returning? We are returning the fallback like this, and then we are going to return, lastly going to return val like this, right? So the essence of this method is to pull out whatever we have in our environmental variable. That's why we have to write this. All right, so what we are going to do next is to come to our main, right? So let's instantiate this. So we're going to do address is going to be mv dot, right? So you can see mv dot get string. So we can now set. You can see that what we are setting here is the key. Then in case there's nothing, then it can give us this as a fallback, as a default, right? Let's do 80, 80. So let's say this is empty, right? So the fallback is going to be this. So that's what it means. All right, so we see that this is this address. So if we come to our env, you can see this is it. So I think that makes sense. Then we can do the next one is going to be API URL, right? So we're going to have env dot string. We can do, we call it weather. Come here. What do we call it? Call it weather URL, right? So call it weather URL, right? So we can just put something empty here. And the next one is going to be API key. So don't forget that everything we are getting here is, let me just put this by the side, right? So we're having, okay. So what you are seeing address, API URL, we're having API URL, API key, so this is a key, right? So for the key, it's going to be API key, right? So, and then it's going to be empty, there's no fallback. So the next thing we're going to have is going to have the redis like this, and then we know that the redis also have this. So you can see that the redis is embedded inside here. So you have like a nested struct, right? So this is a nested struct. So you are going to have redis config like this, and then you're going to have address like this, env get string. You're going to get redis address. So everything I'm getting is coming from the env. You can see that the redis address like this, right? Let's go back to the API key. So the fallback is just write localhosts 6379 like this. The next one is, you can see the next one is going to be password pd env get string. I want to check for something. Okay. All right. So you're going to have, let me just copy this. Okay, we're going to do this. This is going to be redis py, leaving it empty. Last but not least, db env dot get int now. So this is going to be redis underscore db. It's going to be 0 like this. Alright, so we can see that everything here now we've instantiated it. We are done with instantiating now, and then what we have left is this timeout. So the timeout is going to be here, outside here, timeout. So we're going to have timeout to be env dot get, and then it's going to be what? Time duration like this. So we come back to here, so you can see this is what we have here. Alright, so that is that, guys. So we are done with instantiating now. So I'm going to close everything I have here. So let's close and then just have, oh okay, sorry, this is not completed. We're going to have 10. So that is that. So we are done. So we're going to have our logger. So we can see that in our API we can see we have config and logger. So let's have our logger set up here. So we're going to do logger like this. It's going to be zap.most. We have zap.new production like this, dot sugar. Yeah, so that is that, and then we can defer logger dot sync. So that's it that we need, right? So very quickly we are going to instantiate our Redis, right? So we've set up we've done the setup here, and then we are returning the Redis client. So it is a Redis client that we are going to pass inside our repository. So we're going to be seeing that shortly. So what I'm going to do now is so for your Redis, you have to install Redis, right, on your system. So let's get to see how to install Redis. So for your Redis, you should have, so you can install Redis. Okay, so you can see go-redis as well. Okay, I think I showed us the other time, so I've showed us go-redis, but you need to install Redis, right? So you have to install it. Homebrew. I'm on Mac, that's why you're seeing. So for Windows, you have to check it out, and then when you're done installing, then you have to start it up as well. So then when you start it up, you can also do redis.cli ping, right? So you can install it on your laptop. All right, so that will help you to be able to that will be able to use Redis, or helps the connection in your project. I already have it installed already, so what we want to do now is to do our Redis connection. So I'm going to write something here. Here's it, var rdb like this. So the type is Redis client. So the Redis client you are seeing here is a struct. Okay, we check now. Let me install it. So it's a struct. Can you see? Is a struct. All right. So it's a struct. So what we are going to do here down here is to so instantiate it. All right. So I'm going to do. So I've only created a variable here, right? So of a type of struct. Go is a statically typed language, meaning that when you declare a variable, you have to also assign a type to it. Every variable has a type. It's a statically typed language, meaning that you declare a variable, then you must also specify the type. All right. So cases where we don't specify the type is when we use these shorthand ways of creating variables. So the compiler automatically infers it. He knows, okay, this is a struct by default. He's going to check. You can see that when you click on it, he knows that is a struct. Right, CF, you can see that it's bringing it out as a struct. So you're going to do RDB like this. right? So I'm calling and then I'm saying equals to store.new. You can see I'm calling the new Redis. You can see where we did the setup here, right? So this setup is what I'm calling. So I said new Redis. Okay, these are factory, we call it factory function, right? So a way to instantiate our Redis. You can see that it's returning Redis clients, which is what the struct. Do we get now? So when you declare, struct is a value type in Go, right? Structs behave more or less like classes, right? That you can have properties and you can have methods that you can call on those properties, I guess. Right. So what we are trying to do is that when you have a struct, then you need to instantiate it. It's just like classes and then objects. All right. So the class is a blueprint, then the object is an instance of that class. All right. I believe that makes sense. So this is like a blueprint. Then we want to create an instance. It has to be instantiated for you to be able to use it. Right. So what we are going to do here is we can see that we are passing in a lot of stuffs. Right. So I'm going to just put it on the left and then we're going to close it. So we are passing in the address of the Redis, the password, and the DB. So what we are going to now do is to, where is it here? So you're going to be passing in those things. So since we've instantiated it, so it's going to be cfg dot, dot redis. Don't forget that it's going to be redis like this. Then comma cfg dot redis password. Okay, followed by cfg dot redis db. So let me take this. So we are good, and that is all that we need to do. Okay, so we are done, and then the next thing we want to do now is I'm going to use our logger dot info like this. We're going to do redis cache connection establish. So we are going to be setting up our server very soon. Establish. Then we are going to do the file then, so redis db redis db dot close at least. So we are done with this. All right, so one thing that we need to do is to instantiate our application. So we can see that we've not yet instantiated our application, right? So this application has not been instantiated, so let's instantiate it. So you're now saying app equals to, since we are going to be passing this application as pointer to a function, so we are going to create a function very soon. But let me just create the function right now and see why I have to pass it as a pointer, right? So the essence of struct is a value type means that when you're passing structs inside a method, so we have method of a struct, right? So I'm going to do that. So we have func like this, we have app, so we have mount, so we have, this is going to return http dot handler like this. So we are going to use chi router. Is a minimalistic library, routing library, and it's very cool. All right, so it helps to handle our routing. These people /v5. So we're going to install this shortly. Then okay, so let's use dot use. Okay, cause handler course option. So let's set it up and do allowed origins, allow origins. So it's going to be slice of string env dot get string course allowed origin. I'm going to do http localhosts 5174. Okay, this is supposed to be this, and then we are going to have this. So the next one is going to be allow. So I just want us to set up the HTTP server. So I just want to set up the very quick slice as well. So we're going to have, you only need get, really. You don't need any other ones. We have options, allowed headers. It's going to be string. So we are going to have to accept authorization content type x.csrf token. Then we have expose header. So we have string, we have link like this, allow credentials first max age. All right, finally, okay, so what I'm going to do now is to so let's return this so we can come back here to set up our router. Then the next thing is, so we can see that the methods that we have, they are methods, but we also call them functions because they are functions, right? And they are methods that are of these structs, right? So you can see that it's taking these structs as an argument here. All right, so that is how it is. So we're going to have methods, the same thing, application star. We are passing it as a pointer because it allows us to be able to modify the data if we need to modify any of the feeds that we are passing here, right, inside this function. So that's why it's being passed as a pointer, right? I have a course on my, if you're interested in knowing pointers and all of that, I I have a course on the basics that I really explain pointers and how to use pointers, so I will drop the link in the description below. So what we are doing here is SRV the server, then we are doing HTTP dot server. So HTTP dot server is a struct. So let's get it. Right, so this is struct. Can you see is a struct? Right, so in order to create our server, everything I'm going to write is coming from, you can see, the address, the handler, all of that. They are just there. So these are, Go has a standard library that's it's a code that has been written, right? That's all you need to do is to import it inside your projects, and it has a lot of things that you can do with the code that has been written. Right, so we have app dot, so we're going to do app dot config dot this. So we can see that because we are passing this, you see this is a struct. You can see the config. Then you know that under this config we have the address, right? So we see that config is a struct. So you can see we are now saying app dot config dot address, right? So you have to just use a dot notation to be able to access the specific field that you need. Then we have the handler in our case, which is mux like this. All right. Okay. So the mux is what we are passing in. So we're going to pass this write timeout time dot second. Oh. All right. So we have read timeouts time dot seconds times 10. Then we have I do timeouts time dot minutes. All right, now so what we need to do is so we are returning error, so there's no error, so we're going to do app dot logger dot inflow. So info. So we're going to have server has started. We're going to start our server, so now the address like this, and then comma api.config.address. Right, we know that this address. So we are going to have error. Get this error as this dot listen serve. We have if error is. So we're going to have error dot http dot error server close. And we're going to have return error. So return new. Right. So that is that, right? So this is, we are setting up this server, right? Like I said, it's important that we have many files here so that we don't have all the files, we don't write all the code. We can as well write all the code in our main. But what makes, if you have every code here, you're just going to have a long file. So for purpose of organization and structure, we have to have some things here. So the reason why we're having this is because I've not installed this library, so we're going to do go mod tidy. So it's going to look for the packages, it's going to check through the application and then install the packages. As you can see that there's no any red line, so we are cleared. So we can go to our main now. So let's go. So I want to instantiate this guy here. So you can see we need to instantiate, and in order to do that, we are going to, so since we are passing the struct as pointer, we're going to do application like this. So we have config is going to be CFG, right? This is CFG that we have here, and then we have a logger as well. Logger is going to be logger as well. So that is us. Then we are going to start our development server. It's going to be Mux is going to be app.mount. Right, so don't forget that when we instantiate, we can now call the methods. Right, so we see that we have several methods here. So these are the methods. So we are saying mount. Then we've instantiated, we are saying app dot the method. You can see the method showing here. Right, so then the next thing is going to be if error app.run. We are calling app.run, then we are passing in the mux. Don't forget that we can see that this guy is taking the router here, right? App.the mux.http.handler. Right, so this, the code is on my GitHub. We can have access to it. Then if it's not error, fmt dot. So you're going to have error connecting. I know there's a problem here. Connecting. So we're going to have log dot fat app dot run mux like this. Alright, so just to log in case there are any problems. So that is that, guys. So what I'm going to do now is, let's see. So to start our development server, I'm just going to go run dot slash cmd. And this is why I'm doing slash cmd is because I want all the file inside this cmd to run, right? Because you can see that all the files in the cmd, the app.go, and then they are connected. They are the same thing. I'm just breaking them into different file for the purpose of organization, so that you don't have a one big long file. So that's why I'm doing .cmd. So later on we are going to write our handlers. So the code that will be inside the handlers is more or less like okay, so I'm just going to write something here. So let's put something here. Let's do a head check. So we're going to do func app, so that we can start our development server. Let's check handler like this. So we're going to have w.http response writer, then this is pointer to http requests. Request is alright. So we're going to have header like this, header dot set. So it's going to be content type is going to be what? Application JSON like this. So we have write header is going to be what? HTTP dot status OK. So we're going to have our data. That means that on this particular route, this is what we want to see. So we are using map. So this is going to have a key of string and a value of string. Okay, so that is map. So we are going to have status to be OK, right? And then env. So let's get it from our environmental. Let's say app.config.add. So you can see that, you know, we having our struct here gives us the leverage to be able to use it, you know, across, you know, in a app. Of course, this is where we are instantiating it, and then also inside this place. So that's that. And then we have the version, which is going to be 1.1.0, like this. So we are good. So we're going to do if error. So we are going to have JSON dot new, should be new encoder. Okay, so we know that when you want to send a response, it has to be in JSON format. Okay, so means of when you have to transport data over the network, then it has to be in a format that, you know, it has to be in a JSON format, JavaScript object notation, right? So that is that. So that's like a general accepted format for sending any data across the internet, irrespective of the programming language that you are using, right? So when you're sending something, you have to convert it to JSON, and then when you get back, when you're receiving it, then you convert it to your own, to that language data structure. Okay, so we are going to encode it. We're encoding it. So we're going to do this dots. So the reason why we are using encode here is because this is an interface, right? So it's an IO interface. I won't go into details. Another video I'll go that, and then we are encoding the data here, right? So we can also use masher and unmasher, right? We can also use that, but this will just encode it directly, right? So that is that equals to name, right? So app.logger dot error. So we are having this line because we need to install JSON. Failed to encode in case else check response. Alright, so we have error, and then we have error like this. So you have http dot error. So we're going to have w internal server error, http dot status internal server error, and then we are going to return, right? So that is that for the health check. So we're going to go into, we're going to create a route for that health check. We're going to come here and we're going to do r.router, r.route. So we're going to have the path health like this. Then we're going to call, just creating a wrapper there, r equals to q Okay, chill dot. This also allows you to be able to create a nested route, right? So r.get, let's have it like this, then I have this. So I'm going to now call the method. So that means when you get to that part, then a method should be executed, which is going to be health check. That's what I'm saying. So when you go to this route, this is like a wrapper, right? So when you go, so the other one is going to be outside of this. So when you get to this health check, then the method here should be called, which is the method that we have defined here, right? So that is that. So I've said that you can do go run.cmd, right? So before I do go dot run, then because of our environmental variable, we have to do something important I would like to show us. Oh, so if you come here, let's do dr. Okay. All right, so you see, so there's something we have to do here, which is we have to do darv allow, right? You need to allow it so that to pick from the environmental variable, right? So that whatever we have inside the environmental variable is being picked up in our application. So I'm just going to do div allow like this, so we can see that this is imported now, right? So the next thing we are going to do now is to do go run dot slash cmd, right? So let's check. So we can see that our server is running successfully. So we can see that the Redis cache connection is established. Make sure that you install Redis. That is very important. And then we can see that server has started successfully on 3000. So we see that the 3000 is here, right? So if I change this one to 4000, right? So that means if you do go.run, it's picking the default, right? It's picking the default. So the default is coming from here. This is it. So what we need to do is to do div allow like this. Okay, so once we are done, we can now do go dot this. You can see that 4000 is picked now, right? So 4000 is picked. So but let's take it back. So let's take it back to 3000. So I'm going to stop this, and then we are going to do drv allow. So let me clear this. So we are going to do, so instead of doing this all the time, right, in my make, I'm just going to write this this command there. So we're going to do run like this, right? So we're just going to do go run dot cmd, right? So it's running, it's going to affect everything here. So that's that. So let's clear. So let's do make run, so we can see that it works instead of having to type in all this all the time. So that's that. So from our API, we know that what do we have in our API? This is a route, right? So let's go and check out that route. So let's do, okay, so we have a route here which is what, 3000, right? So nothing, so you can do /health. So you can see that everything is working fine now. So the health is working fine. So everything is working fine now. So our focus now is going to be on, so let's get the models that we are going to need. I'm going to create a model go. So I'm going to do package model. You're going to create a struct type whether. Let's make it in a capital letter because we need to import it. So we have structs. So we're going to have location. So when you come to this place, right, and you made a request, where's our request? Wow. Okay, so let's copy this and then let's go to Explorer. So when we made a request, so let's see, this is New York. So let's show response. So we are seeing the response, New York. So we want to create something like this. So this shows us like key value pairs, right? And what is showing us here means that what we are having here shows that key value pairs means you have a key values and all of that. This is a struct, right? So we are going to model our own data structure to be something like this. So we are going to have a struct, then we are going to have another struct, then we are going to have another struct. So what I will be taking from this endpoint is going to be this, right? So this is what we are going to model. I hope that is clear. So we are doing something like this, right? So what we are going to now do is, okay, so I'm just going to copy this. Let me copy this guy. And then I'm going to go to our type. Let's create a type file, types.go. I'm going to paste it here, right? So I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do something like this to the left. Then where's our type? Then I have our type here. So this is struct, right? So it's going to be a nested struct. So you see that I have a weather, and then since I'm creating a nested struct, I don't have to use type again, right? So I can as well create it inside, right? So you can create it inside and just still use, but I think this is okay. So you can have a name. Yeah, so let's have a name. It's going to be string, and then we are going to have a strong struct tag, right? So these struct tags are more or less like the name that the JSON we carry that will be used by the JSON. So you can see we are using name in small letter, right? So I'm going to duplicate. So this is going to be region. All right. So this is going to be region in small letter. You can see region is small letter. So this is going to be country. So this is going to be lat. So this is going to be, so I'm just going to be using the small letter, right, of the JSON because it has to match. All right. So lat, and then let's do this. So what we are doing next is going to be longitude. So this lat is going to be, these are going to be floats, 32, float 32. And this, and this guy is going to be what? TZ ID. So it's going to be TZ underscore ID. Then this is going to be local time. So this is going to be local time All right, so let's come here. Then we have local time. So this is going to be string. This guy is not going to be string. U int 32. This guy is going to be string. JSON local time like this. All right, so we need to now do this finally. JSON location, and that's that. Then don't forget that we have current as well, so we are going to have current another struct. Okay, so this is going to have so I'm just going to copy this. All right, last updated like this. U32. So we're going to take this as well. I'm just going to do JSON. So I think I can take okay, let's just continue. Last updated is going to be string. Last updated, you have quotes. We have temp C like this, float 32. Which is going to be this. F like this is D like this. So this is going to be integer. Then this is going to be is D. You can see that I'm following the way it's structured here. Then we have UV int UV int dot JSON. All right, so we have condition struct des string JSON text. So this is a structure. So this is going to be code. Okay. Icon code. So the same structure. So this is going to now be icon and code. All right, so that is that the same structure. UV Why is this thing doing like this? It's not compatible. Okay. So let's do this. Still looking at ints. Oh wow, you can see the mistake here. You can see the mistake. So we are going to have two things here. JSON, the process of typing, just type rubbish. Condition, and then you're going to have current. JSON current as well. So that is that, guys. So we are done. So I'm going to close all. So we are done here. This is data structure. So when we make the API call, it's going to be saved inside this data structure. Okay, it's going to be what we currently have here is JSON, right? You can see in double quotes JavaScript object notation. So let's format properly. Yeah, so that is what we have. So we are going to have something here, our type. Inside our type, we're going to take this away. So we're going to have package types. We're going to have type. So the type is what is going to be in a format that we want to send out from our own server, right? From the Go servant, from the Golang server, from our own server. This is now going to be the data we are sending out ourselves, right? So we're going to have structs. So we're going to have name. Wow. So I'm just going to copy some things here. So I'm going to copy everything here. Then we try to modify name tests. Name. Okay. Wait. Tests. And then I take out this guy as well. So let's format. Exactly. So we have the name, the region, the country, the latitude. So let's do this well. The name, the latitude, the longitude. So we don't need this. The local time, this last updated. Need this one last updated. So this is going to be latitude, longitude, local time, last updated is day. Alright, is the okay. Let me leave it there. So you have the text, we have the tests, we have the code and all of that. Okay. UV. So alright, so let's create the type for our endpoint. API struct latest URL. We have again, we have string. This should be in capital letter since you are going to import it. If you are not importing, then it can be in small letter, but it has to be in capital letter because it's going to be needed outside of this. So alright guys, so this is what we have, and then in the UTs folder I'm just going to create some few things there as well, so that we can now focus on our services, repository and handler as well. So package UTs, so we're going to have function API core, so we're going to have URL, it's going to be string. Okay, so we're going to make a client get requests, right? HTTP requests from our server. We're going to receive bytes, return bytes and error. So and so like, oh, why are we returning two things? That is peculiar to Golang, right? So you have HTTP dot get, then put your URL like this. Alright, so what are we going to do is if error is not new like this, going to return new fmt dot like this, failed to make API core. Good. W. So we're wrapping the error there. So we defer response dot body dot close. We're going to have response bytes and error, because this guy is returning, we can see it's going to return the HTTP response and error, right? So it's returning two things, it's giving us. So our response is giving us two things. Okay. So we have io.read. So you're reading, or it's going to be what? Response body. So this is also giving us, so is returning bytes, slice of bytes and error, right? So that's what we are going to get. So if error so fail to read API response, case is an issue, API response, and then we are going to return response bytes and new. Okay, so if there's no error, then we return new. Alright, so that is that. Then finally on this part we are going to have normalize. Okay, so this function is what helps us to be able to, in our requests params, right? So when we have the question tag equals to, so whatever we are supplying, it has to be equal to the name of the city, right? Because when you look at here, we have a name, like let's say New York City. That's what we have. We have name, right? So it has to be equal to what we have here. So don't forget that this parameter is going to be from our browser, like question tag, you know, New York. So it has to be equals to this. And how do we do that? We're going to use the normalize here. So that's what this normalize is going to do. Normalize city name is going to compare. So city is going to be string, then it's going to return string. I'm going to use regex dot must compile. Going to do A to Z, A, Z, 0 to 9 plus. Alright, so then let's return string dot to lower case. So it's going to have dot replace all string, city in case we have anything, and hyphen like this, and space. Alright, so that is it, guys. So we're going to now focus on the repository, and then did I create service? And the service as well. So let's create service.go, and then we do package service. Guys, so we are going to, I think we should just work on the repository part now. So I'm going to create repository.go. So let's put the package here. Package repository. And we're going to have a type of whether repository. It's going to be a struct. Then we are going to have the client. So we're going to have the client Redis here, since we are using Redis dot client. So the instantiation of the Redis is here. So that means we are going to be calling it here when I'm done. So I just want to, so when we are done, so we have the instance. Then we are going to have the expiry time dot duration. Alright, so we are going to have a factory function. So we're going to have func new. So whenever you have new, is a factory function new whether repository. So the essence of the function is to instantiate it, right? We are creating a function to instantiate the struct. So we have Redis client dot client, and then we are going to have expiry. It's going to be time dot duration, and then we are returning. So we are having a pointer. We are returning a pointer whether repository like this. So we're going to return that repository. So here we have the client equals to the client, and we are going to pass, then expiry is going to be expiry like this as well. Alright, so here what we are going to do in our app dots, okay, so if you come to our app now, come to main, right, we are going to do, let's say, Redis store. Okay, I think I should just, let me finish this, because I'm going to create interfaces. I'm going to create some interface I'm going to use, right, so that to abstract the implementation, and that allows us to be able to change to another database, right. So there are two functions that we are going to create. We have func r pointer is weather repository. We are going to create weather. Then we have create weather, and then we have returning CTS, that is our context dot context, and then we are going to have a key. So we are creating, so we need a key and then the data as well. So we have the weather is going to be slice of bytes, and then we are going to return error. Error equals to r.client.set. We have ct like this. We have the key, we have the weather, we have the r.expiry, right, so the time for it, how long it's going to take to be cached, and then if error is not known, we're going to return fmt dot, so it's going to be failed to set weather in cache. Then we are going to return the, since we are returning error, so that is that. So we have func r weather repository, then this is get, this is to get the weather by we are getting the weather by city. Now this is when you have, so this is when you have the weather in the cache, right? So this is, you have it cached. You're going to have string the key, so you need the key only to be able to access cached data. So we are going to byte of slice and error as well. So what we are going to have is cached weather error, since we are returning a byte of, these are the two things we are returning, an error. We're going to have r.client.get like this, ctx, then we have key.byte. Okay, so let's handle the error. If error equals to redis dot name. We are going to have return name. Okay, so that is else if error equals to not name, then we are going to return name fmt failed to get. So you're having failed to get whether from cache. This is going to be W, an error, and then we are going to now return the cached whether and name. Alright, so this is for the repository layer, right? So the methods that we are having here are basically to create the weather, right? If to create the weather, and for us to be able to create the weather, we need the context, right? And that is what we are passing in, and then we need the key, because the Redis works in key value pair, right? We need a key, right? So the data is stored, and then we need the data, which is a slice of bytes. So that is what this does. So but once you've made a request and then the data is cached, right? So if you are requesting for such data, let's say you requested to get the weather for London, for instance, or Lagos, you've requested for it and it has not yet expired, right? So what it means is that the data is in the Redis, is cached by the Redis. So if you are making requests to get that London again, that means he doesn't need to create it. He doesn't need to, create his means to go and get it from the third-party endpoint that we are consuming. Rather, it will just look into the Redis database to give you the data, and that is what it meant. That's what we mean by get weather by city, because it has been cached here, right? But first of all, you have to make a call to the endpoint, and then if you are now requesting for the same city again, then it has been cached. So that is that. So these are the two methods. So I'm going to create an interface. So what it means is, in case we want to, I don't want to expose the implementation to, I want it to be abstract, meaning that the implementation details is not exposed to the services or to the application on itself, right? Rather, we are going to be interacting with the interface, which is the method. All right, so what we are going to do with the storage is, let's just do package repository. We're going to have type weather repository, capital letter, interface. We have create, so we can as well just come and just take everything out like this. Oh, this should be a capital letter. Paste, and then we can get this one as well out like this, and then paste. Alright, so I'm going to return a factory function. You see, func new weather repo. Right, so we are going to have client is going to be redis.client, and then expiring time dot urination. So let's import this. Alright, and then we are going to now return weather repository, which we are going to now return. We're going to return. We are returning the weather repository. The weather repository we are returning is this is a struct, right? And why are we returning the struct is because the struct is implementing the methods of the interface. Do you get? So we can actually return a struct since the struct is implementing the method of the interface. So that is what it is, or it satisfies those methods. All right, so that is as so this is what we are returning, right? So let's go back. And so since we are returning it, so it's just as well to say that everything we have here, so we have now, since we are returning, we have, it's going to be client equals to the client, expiring equals to expiring, right? And the beauty of this is that we can as well decide to create another DB, maybe MongoDB, not MongoDB now, maybe another database entirely, right? Maybe let's say Postgres or SQLite and all of that, right? Or MySQL, right? So what we just need to do is to use the same method, right? And you writing using interface abstract out, we are not concerned about the implementation. That's the advantage of using an interface, right? We just the abstraction is an abstraction that is being done, so you don't know about the implementation details. All right, so and that's in a way sort of decouples the applications, right? Not to be solely dependent. So what this is what we have, and okay, so I think we can. So I'm going to go into, let's go to the service layer now. So once we are done with the service layer, then we can go to main and connect everything together. So service layer. So let's start with this type weather service struct. So that means from the repository layer, we communicate with the service. So the service layer is the business logic. Weather repository, then we're going to have repository dot weather repository. So we can see that the service layer is interfacing with this, right? So it's using this without not knowing the implementation details, right? So we can as well swap the implementation details for another thing. This repository could be another database entirely, right? It will still not affect anything because it is not exposed to the implementation details, or concrete implementation rather. So that's why I love interfaces, right? So but you should use them when you need to use them. Context timeouts. All right, so we have time dot urination, and then we have logger as well. So sub dot logger. All right, so we are going to create a factory function or type. So we're going to have an interface here, type weather interface as well. So this service layer is going to have two interfaces. We have create weather So you're going to have create weather, which is going to be cts context, right? This is going to be useful in our handler, in our transport layer. Types dot API. You have types dot API. Right, so let's import the types. No. Alright, so that is type dot API. And then we are returning types dot store data and error. Right, so this is going to be to create weather. You're going to get weather by city. So it's going to be CTS. So let's get the CTS here. Then we are going to have the city, which is going to be a string. And then we are going to have a type dot store dot error as well. Alright, so we are done with the interface. And then the next thing we are going to do is to create a factory function. This is going to be new weather service that we are going to instantiate. It's going to be weather service repository, weather repository. We're going to have timeout. Timeout is going to be time dot duration. We are going to have a logger, right? So better error formatting for us. Okay, sugar. So then we are returning weather service, which is the interface that we are returning now, right? So this is capital letter, this is small letter, weather service like this, and then we are going to return the struct. So we are returning this, right? So we are returning, say, pointer, this. Alright, so weather service. Oh, there needs to be a space. Neat. That's weather service. So what else we need to do? Weather service is equal to weather repository. Oh, it should be weather repository. Weather repository. This is weather repository. Then equals to, this should be weather repository now. Repository equals to weather repository. So then context timeout is equal to timeouts. Then we have logger equals to logger. So that is that. Right, what are we doing wrong? Okay, let's see. Missing method. What are we missing? Phone, new weather service, weather repository, weather repository, timeout, logger, weather service. Alright, so we are returning weather service. We are returning weather service. still trying to figure out why this is weather repository. Okay, let me comment this out. Return this is we are supposed to return weather service. Okay, cannot use weather service. Value of type weather service as weather service value return. Does not implementing. Missing method create weather. Oh, okay. I think there's a mistake somewhere. Alright, so let's go over this again. Weather service struct, we have weather repository, then we are making reference to this, create weather, and then context timeout. This one, logger, type interface, weather service interface. We have create weather, right? We have this URL, this, and this. Get weather by city, this, and this, and this. So we now have function new weather service. We have weather repository, and this we have timeout. Then we have weather service. Alright, and we are returning weather service, which is a struct. Okay. Alright, let's continue. So we have func s is going to be weather service. So we are creating the first, exactly this is what we are creating here, the weather service, like this. Then we're going to have so var weather. That's we've created a model.weather. Right, so model.weather, and then we're going to have app.url. Right, so we know that fmt.sprint sprint elf like this, http something like this, x, then we are going to have the key. This is the way it's formatted. Then this x and q equals to this and this. So what we are going to have here is url dot url. Then we have url, right? The URL we are passing dot API key URL dot the city. So wondering where this is coming from, if you come here, type dot API. So this is where we are having it, as where it's coming from. Alright, so that is that. So this is kind of is going to give us this, and that is what we needed. Like, let's say HTTP, let's say local hosts, right? So local hosts, let's say whether then the key, the weather key, the value. Okay, then you have the weather key, and then this is in making the request, right? You need the weather key, and then also the city now. right? So it's a combination of the base URL, right? So it's a combination of the base URL, the weather key, and the city to be able to give you the specific data that we need, the specific weather info that we need for that specific city. So it's a combination of the three. And what we are using here is to format it by using the sprint F to format it properly like this. Alright, so what we want to do next is so we're going to make the call body.error is going to be like this. utis.api call. Don't forget we're making the endpoint here, call here, right, by passing the URL, right? So, but what we are going to pass now is going to be API URL formatted properly, nice, and then we are saying if error is not new. So we are going to use a logger, no, not logger, dot fatal dot error. So we're going to have failed to make API call. We have URL, API URL, then we have error, comma. Let's format this nicely. And then we are going to return new and error. I think that settles that. Alright, so here what we are doing basically here is to make the endpoint. We are making the call, right? So what we have gotten here, right? We are now putting it here to make the call. And if you make the call, you can see bytes. It's going to give us a slice of bytes and error. And that is, we are handling the error. So the body now is what we are now dealing with now. So for the body, we are going to do error equals to JSON dot masha or masha like this. So we're going to have body, right? It's coming in JSON format. Then we have, since it's coming in JSON format, and then we have it to be decoded inside this data structure. Like you can see that it's coming and then it's going to be in a struct. So after, we on masha, right? On masha is to unpass the JSON and JSON encoded data and store it in the results of the value pointed to you by V. You get now? So that is that. So if I do console.log now, you will see that everything will be stored inside the weather, right? So that is that. I'm not going to show us later if error is not new. So I'm going to take this guy here. So this is going to be failed to make to masha API response. Then the response is going to be string body. Then we have error. It's going to be error, and then we return. Okay, so that is that about that. So we're going to have a store equals to and a pointer of types dot store values. Alright, so what we are doing is that we are getting the data from the endpoint. So we get the data from the endpoint. And then we, we change it, into our data structure, right? We pass it into our data structure, and then we are now storing it, okay, into the way we want to. Do we get now? So that is what we want to do. That's what I want to do here. All right, so that is what I'm storing. So you see that the data structure in our model confirms, looks like, I mean, this is what we have here, right? So we take it, we put it here. After we've unmashed it, right? We pass it is like this. Then we want to now transform it like this. So I need it to be like this. All right, so that's what I want to do next. So we're going to have name equals to, so it's already stored in the weather now. Okay, so the data already in the weather now. So we have weather dot location dot name. So I'm just going to pick this and say region. So this name should be name. So this is going to be dot region. This is going to be country, latitude, see that the stored data is everything, MC, temp, last date updated is going to be text. This is going to be icon. It's going to be code. It's going to be UV. Alright, so what we are now changing now is going to be the country, it's going to be lat, then the temperature is going to be current, yes, it's going to be weather dot last updated test is going to be condition, okay, it's going to be dot current condition test. So you see that this is nested here. On that tab you can see that current condition, right? Current condition. Right, so current icon, current dot condition code. The last but not the least is current UV. Alright, so that is what we have, and then we are going to do if store dot name is empty string. We're going to have so just take invalid city name. We have invalid city name in API response. City is going to be url.city, and the response is going to be weather. So that is that. So we are going to return name fmt dot rank query city name. Alright, so now what we are just trying to do is, we notice that there are two things here, right? The name that is coming from the parameter, like query parameter we are going to put on top here, must also be the same with the name here of the location that will be returned from the response. Okay, so that is what we want to do now. So we want to compare. So we are saying if utis dot normalize name. Okay, so we're going to put the store name dot name is not equals to utis dot normalize name is going to be what? url dot city. So just going to take this again and paste it. So it's going to be city name mismatch. So expected is actual. So expected is supposed to be utis dot normalize, should be url dot city. Utis dot normalize should be what? Store dot name. Alright, so wrong city query. So we know that all we are trying to do here is to create the weather, right? We are trying to create the weather, and so the next thing we want to do now to create the weather, we are going to need, we have to now call, this is where we are now going to call this, and we need this method from the weather repository. And so what we are going to now do is we are going to create the key. Key is going to fmt dot sprint f, going to be weather s, like this, string dot lower url dot city. We have w error equals to json dot matcher, then store, right? So this is it, store. Now we are the store that we have now, want to matcher it, right? So if error, let's get error. if error fail to measure weather data for caching, it's going to be data. So this is going to be store error. Alright, so what we are going to do is to say error equals to s dot weather. So we are going to get weather repository, right, which is what we are passing in weather repository. So s dots, so s dot weather repository dot create weather. So for us to create weather, we need the ctx, and then we need the key which we have created here, and then we need the data which is the m, right? So that is that. So if there's no data, it's going to create the weather, it's going to create the data, and then one more thing, if error, let's get the error. If error is nil, then failed to store weather data in cache. So we're going to have the key as the key, then we have the error as error, and then what we are finally going to return, we are going to return store and new, like this. Alright, so that is that. We are still getting a red line. Oh, there should be a comma here. Then what we want to do next is to do func x equals to weather service get weather by city. We are going to have ctx context, and then we are going to have city as string. We are going to have our types dot store data, and then we're going to have error like this. So what are we doing is to get the key, right? So still using the same key, right? So we get the key fmt weather string to lowercase, right? So this is city now, right? So the city is small letter, all right. We're going to do var data, it's going to be types. So this is to get city, meaning that this is already in our database, which is in our what, Redis database, right? So to access whatever it is in our Redis database, we need the key, and we are going to use get. Okay, so what is happening is that we are getting data from a third-party endpoint, which is going to come in JSON. We pass it to our own data structure, which is weather, and then we now reconverting it back. We are now setting it back to our own store data in this format, and then once we are done, then we convert it back to what? We convert it back to JSON. And that's what we are doing, because we need to, so when we make the endpoint, when a request is made, then it has to come with the response, and the response you are getting is going to be this. Exactly. So that's what we have done here. That is what we have done here, right? Okay. So everything we have done here is to get it back. All right, so let's finish this. So this is going to be cached whether error equals to s dot get data. This is going to be cts key if it's not new. So we're going to have return is going to be type storage and error equals to JSON dot unmatch cached, right? Because we have to unmatch it because it is in JSON, right? Unmatch it and then put it in our data structure. Data, right? Is it data? Yes, like this. We're going to return types dot store data, and then we are going to return data and new. So that is that, guys. That is all I want to do. So we have two methods under services too, right? So you can see that by the power of interface now we're able to use, we're able to use the repository methods, right, here by just using the interface. Why? Because the interface allows us to use it without being concerned about the implementation details, right? And we can swap the database and everything will still work to something else without having to change a lot of things in our code base. All right, so that is that. So what I want to do next is let's go to our main. Then the last but not the least that we are going to do will be our handler. So inside our main, okay, this thing that is making noise. Inside our main, we are going to do so let's do expiry like this, time dot urination like this, cfg dot context times time dot minutes. So why are we doing this? We are doing this because this is int, right? And we need to convert it to a time format, and that's why we are doing time duration like this, right? So because for our repository is going to take expiry. So if you come to our repository, what do you see? You see client and expiry. So it's important that we set that time dot urination, and using environmental variable affords me the ability to change this thing to anything, and then I'll still come back to it and it will reflect everywhere I'm using it without having to manually start going over the code one after the other to check where I'm using it. So we have cfc g times time times seconds, like this. So what I'm going to do now is to begin to call the instance. So, but before I call the instance, I'm going to do something that is really interesting here, because in my handler we are going to be using some of the methods of the service. The service method here is going to be needed in the handler, right? So what I'm going to do is to, let's come here in the handler and let's put it here. So we're going to have weather service equals to service dot service dot weather service. So what is weather service? So this is weather service. You can see it's the interface. Do you get interface? I'm dealing with the method, which is interface is abstract, right? So I'm going to have it there, right? So we have the interface. So this is all I need. All right, so let's go to our main. Let's go to our main. So what I'm going to do inside the main is to do ready store is going to be repository dot new weather repo. Okay, so we can see that the new weather repo is what is this is what I'm calling. So, and for me to call, you can see that is that instance of the interface I'm returning. Has nothing to do with the implementation details. Doesn't concern itself with the implementation details. So what I now have is to pass in the client and the expiry. So what we are going to do is to pass the client. And what's the client? The client is RDB that I've instantiated here, right? You can see is the RDB. Okay, RDB. So I pick this, put it here, and the expiry, and we are good. Then the next one is going to be what? Weather service, which is going to be service dot new weather service. So where is new weather service? The interface. Can you see? So the instance of the interface is what I'm calling. And then we are passing in three things here. Three things. So you are passing in the weather repository. What is the weather repository? This is the weather repository. Ready store. Then what else are we passing? We are passing context, timeout. Alright, so we are passing timeout. Which one is timeout? This is the timeout here. And then we are passing in the logger. Alright, so we can see that everything is completed now. Repository, timeout, and then the logger. So that is that. So what do I do about this now? We can see that this one will be say weather service is equal to what? Weather service. And that is how everything works. Right, so what we have left is the handler. So I'm just going to cancel this, and then we are going to do dg allow. Alright, so let's do make.run. Okay, have we done the make.run? Yeah, we've done it. Right. Alright, so everything still works fine. Okay, so this is a local host. So everything is still fine. So the last but not the least is our handler. So we come back to our handler here. So you're going to do func each. We're going to do application weather handler. So we're going to pass w.http.response writer r http requests. Alright, so have ctx cancel equals to context dot with timeout context dot background time dot urination then we are going to have h.config timeouts dot time dot seconds. So you can see that since we have app now, then we can have access to config directly, because under config we have config.timeout like this. Alright, so give a cancel. What's happening here? Okay. So what next do we want to do? We want to do city. So in our URL, when we put city, r.url dot query like this dot get city. So what we are trying to do is we want to be able to do, we're going to have v1 slash something like this, right? So this is what we want to do. So you are going to have, so the city is always going to be query then equals to London equals to anything. Now we are getting city, right? So we must be able to get the value city and then saying if city equals to empty string, then http dot error w message is going to be city params cannot be empty, and then we are going to have http dot status that request. Alright, so we are going to return. Right, so that is that. So I'm just going to put a logger here, logger.info. This is fetching weather data city. Alright, so you're going to get the response error equals to, right, so we have the city now. So h.weather dot create weather. So the first thing is to create. You know why this we are having this? Because we have what? We have the weather. And then we have the interface here. So since we have the interface, then we can have access to the method, and that is what is happening here. All right, so we're going to put, this one is going to take CTS, the context, and the URL types, right? Which is what URL is going to be what the city, CTS dot city. No. This is going to be get. First of all, let's see if we can get by city. So we can see city exactly. Okay, so let's, if error is not equals to new like this, h logger cache it city header dot should be set content type application JSON. So again, we have JSON dot new encoder, right? W dot encode map string interface like this. We're going to have the status. It's going to be sources, and then we are going to have the data to be what? To be the response. So the first thing we are checking for is to find out if what we are trying to get, example, is already being cached. If it is not cached, that's why you're using get. Then we go over to this, to creating API URL is equal to this dot API URL is going to be h dot URL API URL. Then we have city, capital letter is going to be city, and then we have API key h API key. So we have that. So we're going to have store error h dot whether create CTS, and then this is going to take URL. So it's going to take API URL. So let's take this. If it's error, okay. If name, so we can put that error here. So what we are going to have is failed to fetch weather data from API. City. Error. So why are we having this? Because there's a need for a comma here. Alright, so we are going to have HTTP bad requests. Status error message. Plus error dots error. Alright, that is if there's error. That is when there's error there. Right, so we have store. So we can have another logger here. Weather data fetched and cached. Right, so we have city. Alright, so what we are just going to do is to need this guy here, bring it down here. Let's format this properly. So we are setting it now, store. So what we are doing here is we are saying the store, then W, the same thing, map.interface, and then instead of being, this is going to be now store. So it's pretty simple. So what we are doing here is that we are saying that whether, right, the first thing is to check if what we are trying to get, let's say we are trying to get London, if it has been cached. But if it is not cached, then it will make a request to the third-party endpoint and get it. And once it gets it, then it's going to fetch the data and then also cache the data. So when we now make a request back to the same London again, it's not going to make that request. Rather, it's going to be picking it from what? From the database, which is our Redis. So that is that. So in rounding up, we are going to check out. So let's make our route. Let's come here. We're going to do r.routes. So let's just make it v1. Okay. v1 func r cheer o dot router. We are going to have r dot get slash weather app dot weather handler. So I think that is pretty everything. I'm not sure we are missing anything out. I think we can do some testing now. So I'm just going to stop the development server, clear this guy, right? So let's bring this guy up more. Clear this guy, and then so we are going to do drmv allowed. Why are we doing that? Because of the changes that we have made to the application, right? So we can now do make run. Alright, so our application is working fine. So let's say for the first one, so of course we can do health check, and that shows everything's fine. Then we can do v1 slash weather slash city. So let's make it cargo. So yeah, it says failed to make an API endpoint. Right, failed. Let me check if this is still working. Okay. Right, so failed to make. So let's see why are we having this problem. Failed to make this endpoint. Alright, so okay, let me try another city. Let's try Lagos. Obviously there's a problem. Alright, so that makes sense. So let's fix the problem. We are missing something out. So failed to make. Thank God for this. Let me search. So we have in our service failed to make endpoint. So what we are going to do is we're going to do something here. So I'm going to do fmt dot print. So make API core. So let me check. I know it's here. Body failed to make endpoint. Wow, so this is failing. What am I going to do? So okay, we're going to do clear. Yeah, what are we going to do now is to we allow make run. Alright, fail to make. No such hosts. Data sources. Wow. After taking some time to look through the application very well, so we can use a base URL, right, just to prefix this. Alright, so using this actually works, right? We have the base URL and then everything works, right? And then also one of the major areas we are getting error is I forgot to use return here. So this was not, there wasn't like any return, right? So we just kept getting this, getting the data, the information we have here logged, right? So there wasn't any return. So I've actually had to write it myself. While typing it out, I missed out on that. So that is that, guys, and then I want us to test now drv. Then we are going to have allow like this. Alright, so we can do make run like this. Okay, so we can see this is working, and let's get to our application. So I'm just going to be testing a couple of cities. Let's do health check first. Alright, so everything works. So let's do v1. So what we are going to see, let me try Dallas for instance. Okay, so you can see we have Dallas, right? And so from the information we can see that this is great. So two things I want you guys to know, or two things I want to show us here, is that when we are making the request, to the third-party endpoint, which we are using the web API for the first time, it tends to fetch the data directly from there. We are making a request, to that endpoint, and that is why we are getting this logger. I actually love this logger. So you are saying this is created and data fetched and cached. So that means when we are now requesting for this data subsequently, it's no longer going to make a request to the server anymore. It's going to go to our Redis database to get it for us. What do I mean? So I also set a time. So I mean that it's not like maybe in interval of 30 minutes, right? So whatever is in the cache will be lost, and then when you now make a request, it goes back to the server, to the third-party clients to make to get the fresh data for us as well. So it's not like it's for a long time. So there's a time duration set. All right. So I'm going to get the we are going to do the dollars again. So I just want you guys to see what we have here currently. All right, so let me push this. So this is what we have right here. So if you go back again and then let's make the call again. So we see you have dollars again. So what do you see? You are seeing that they cached it. All right, so it has been cached. All right, so this is what is being hit again. You can see that get weather by city. It doesn't come to this side anymore. So I'm just going to try some other cities in the world. Let's try let's try some other cities. uh Looking for cities to try now. Okay, so let's try Houston. Houston. All right, so trying Houston, you can see this is Houston of America, Houston, Texas. So what do we have? You can see this is created, right? So, and then we make that request again. What do we see? This is cached, right? So that is how it works. So this is just what is being we have. There's a logger that just logs fetching data, for every of the response, and then it also logs this one, cached and all of that. So let's do London. Okay, so finally let's do London like this. All right, so you are seeing we are getting London. So subsequently you do a London again, you can see it has been cached. So finally I'm just going to do Dallas again. So we can see that Dallas is still cached, right? You see initially we got Dallas, right? It's still cached. So that is it, guys. I mean, it's an interesting project. We use Logger, we use Redis, database. I mean, I'm sure that you have learned one or two things, and personally I enjoy working on this project. All right, so I will be working on the part 2 for this course, and that is going to be the front end part using React. And it's going to be a very simple build, and then hopefully I'll release it very soon. So I want to believe that you love the video, you like the video. Please consider dropping a comment, and then like the video, and then subscribe, so that when I release another video you get notified. So thank you, and see you in another one. Bye.